Intercepted at the goal line. Always Williamson is in the lane. Look out.
Welcome back to another episode of Tailgate Talk. This is episode number 4, I believe. We're going to be talking about some NBA playoffs that have been going on, and most of this episode will definitely be about the NFL draft. That's going to be a hot topic, and there's a lot to talk about. How you doing, Brant?
I'm great. How was your weekend, Logan?
It was pretty good. Just enjoyed watching these NBA playoffs, and it's pretty crazy, right?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty insane. The Celtics started off the weekend with an upset over the Bucks, the number 1 seeded Bucks in the East. They won by 22 points in Milwaukee.
Definitely wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I can tell because you had the Bucks winning this series. Any thoughts on changing that?
Nope. Still not thinking about changing it. I still got the Bucks.
All right. Well, I have the Celtics winning this one, so my bet's looking pretty good right now. The Celtics really just dominated that game. I mean, they were up big from the start. They went on a 15-2 run at one point in the first half, and they were winning by 15 points in the first half. Milwaukee, actually came back and got it to within 2 points at halftime. But then in the second half, Boston just ran away with it, ended up winning by 22 points. Milwaukee really couldn't do anything offensively. They just were terrible shooting. They shot less than 40% from the field for the whole entire game, and 38% from the three for the entire game. But Giannis, he really didn't have a good game. He was 4 of 21 for the night.
Terrible.
That is just awful. I mean, you just can't do that again, especially against the Celtics team that's so talented and deep. And I mean, Giannis, the Celtics had a great game plan against the Bucks. They proved that they were just going to go out and let anybody but Giannis beat them, and they showed that nobody on the Bucks can do that. I mean, I think their next highest scorer was Chris Middleton, who had like 19 points or something like that. But I don't see the Bucks. I mean, I see the Bucks winning the next game, but I don't see the Bucks winning any more games after that. I think it's going to be a 4-1 game 5. Boston wins and wins the whole entire series. Like that was astounding.
I think it'll be 6 games at least.
Yeah,
both teams are too good, and I just think they both want it too bad. I don't think it'll be that soon.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know about Mike Budenholzer, the head coach for the Bucks. He's had a pretty bad history in the playoffs. He used to be the head coach for the Atlanta Hawks, if you remember, like 3 or 4 years ago when they had Al Horford, Jeff Teague, Kyle Lowry, all these different guys. I'm sorry, not Kyle Lowry, Kyle Korver. And they had all these all-stars, right? They at one point they had 5 all-stars, and they still couldn't get past LeBron. I mean, granted, LeBron was in the East and dominating the East at that time, but Mike Budenholzer can't get past the Eastern Conference Finals. So I just don't see these Bucks getting to the finals past the Celtics.
It definitely will be close, and after that first game, I'm not sure who's going to take it, but my money's still on the Bucks.
We had some more playoff games. The Raptors actually ended up beating the 76ers in Game 1. Game 2 is tonight. They're currently playing right now. Kawhi had a monster game with 45 points, and it was just an all-out beating by the Raptors. I really think this Raptors team is quite different with Kawhi Leonard. That compared to the last few years, they don't seem fazed by any of this, playoff atmosphere or anything like that. Other players on the Raptors are stepping up. Pascal Siakam is averaging 23 points a game in the playoffs already through his first 6 games. I mean, he has brought life to this Raptors team along with Kawhi Leonard. And I just think these Raptors are definitely going to be a force to reckon with.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard's their high scorer in this game that's going on right now. It's halfway through the third quarter, and he's got 20 points.
Yep.
So no one else has that. We've got Kyle Lowry with 10, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting this series, how it plays out, because I think the 76ers are winning right now.
Yeah, by 10.
Yeah, they're up by 10, and so if the 76ers can even up this series, then it'll definitely make this one a lot interesting. I think it can go to 7 games possibly.
Yeah, I think so too. Just honestly, I don't have a good grip on both these teams, but I feel like the Sixers will end up on top.
Yep, I kind of feel that way too. Golden State ended up beating Houston last night. They started off their series with a win.
Sad.
Yeah.
It was so close.
It was, what, a 3-point loss?
104 to 100.
No, 4-point loss, yeah. Chris Paul ended up getting ejected in the final seconds of the fourth quarter, and he did get fined $35,000 today by the NBA. But I don't see the Rockets winning this series. I did say before that I thought the Rockets had a great chance of winning, but just watching that game, I mean, a lot of people are complaining that Houston is not getting the calls that they're accustomed to, or Houston is not getting the the same calls that Golden State is getting, and I just don't see that. I mean, personally, what I saw last night was I saw James Harden trying to draw fouls, trying to kick his legs out, trying to initiate contact.
Oh my gosh, he was doing that like a
Every
ridiculous amount. Like, I understand, like, it's a new game of basketball and most players are trying to draw the foul. It's just a strategy, but when you're doing it like every freaking time you're attempting a three, I can't tell you how many times I saw him on the ground like
kicking his legs out.
You don't fall that many times during a game shooting threes. He was looking ridiculous.
Yep, I completely agree. And that's just not how you win. I mean, most of the time what you do as an offensive player is you look to make the basket, right? To me, what James Harden was looking to do was he was looking to draw a foul. He wasn't looking to make those shots. He was looking to draw a foul so that he could get to the free throw line and, get some of these Warriors in foul trouble. Now, Steph Curry did have 5 fouls on James Harden. So he did get him in a little bit of foul trouble. But Draymond Green, he had 4 fouls. And Klay Thompson, he only had 3. So, I mean, it's like I don't think that,
it's not an effective enough strategy.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. I don't think that it's very efficient either. It's not a good way of playing basketball, because at the end of the day, if you're jumping, you're falling, you're freaking getting back up, you're wasting your leg strength in getting back up all those times. If you're falling every single time on a 3, that's going to take a little bit of a toll on your body. By the fourth quarter, you're going to be tired.
Yeah.
You're not going to have your legs for your jumpers.
Yeah.
And that's what James Harden relies on. I mean, shoot, his step back is his bread and butter,
You could even injure yourself the way he was falling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Basketball is so unpredictable with injuries. Like, you could hurt yourself doing anything. So it's too risky.
Yep. And what Houston is failing to understand is every single year the NBA officiating changes during the playoffs. Okay, so it goes from one way in the regular season. The refs call it one way in the regular season, meaning they like to call a lot of shooting fouls in the regular season, right? Like, they want to protect the shooter. They want to, slow the game down a little bit, you know what I mean? But in the playoffs, there's no protecting the shooter. It's all about letting the flow of the game dictate how the game's going to go.
Yeah.
Like, the refs aren't going to stop the game 20 times in the second half. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to call 20 fouls for the Rockets to get 40 free throws.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not going to happen. And Houston has to know that. Golden State, the reason why they're so good is because they play into the refs. Like, they know that the refs aren't going to call all these fouls. And they kind of play rough with Houston, right? Like, they'll chase you off the screen really, really hard, and they'll nudge you and they'll elbow you and stuff like that. And the refs normally in the regular season would call that, but once it gets to the playoffs, they just don't call it. So Houston complaining about that is not going to do anything. That's not going to change anything. Houston just needs to change their game and adapt to that level of playoff, caliber of basketball.
Winning is not about freaking complaining. Just get out there and play.
Exactly. Let's move on to Portland and Denver. Denver ended up wrapping up their first series with a Game 7 win against the Spurs
Series
this weekend. And then Portland already won. They were waiting for quite a while. They ended up winning in 5 games against Oklahoma City. So they've been waiting for a while to play Denver. Game 1 is tonight. So I'm pretty eager to see how that one plays out. I want to see if Damian Lillard can get to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
Damian's been looking good this postseason, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, Damian is definitely a monster, and I just love to see him succeed in the playoffs because I think he's one of the most underrated players in all of the NBA. He does not get the credit that he deserves, and I just think that he's gonna have a great series because who's gonna guard him?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody can guard him on Denver.
Well, how far has Lillard gone in the playoffs?
I think the second round is the farthest. Lillard, that is the farthest that he's ever gone. He's never made it to the Western Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm. How long has he been playing?
This is like his 6th or 7th year, I think.
He needs to win.
Yeah, he's been to the second round of the playoffs once before, and he beat the Houston Rockets in the first round, but then he lost to the Golden State Warriors. So now he doesn't have to play the Golden State Warriors until the Western Conference Finals, so that he actually has a chance of going to the Western Conference Finals. Honestly, the Blazers lucked out with how lucky of a playoff road they got, because they don't have to play Houston or Golden State.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, exactly. And they pretty much, no knock on Denver, but when you get taken to Game 7 by the Spurs, I don't think you're winning another series.
Yeah.
And Portland's got a wide open layup to the Eastern Conference Finals, or to the Western Conference Finals, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But they definitely should make it there. And with the way that Lillard's been playing, you never know. They could end up being the Warriors.
Yeah,
It'll be tough. It'll be tough.
I would love them to, but it's just a stretch, man. Warriors are so freaking good. It's hard to see anyone beating them, especially after that win against Houston. I see the Warriors in the finals.
Yep, I'll completely agree with that.
And it's just going to be another boring finals.
Yeah.
Unless, who would they play? The Celtics or the
Bucks?
The Bucks.
Maybe the 76ers.
So it'd be at least a little interesting because we haven't seen those teams in the finals.
Yeah, at least it's not LeBron.
Yeah, we're done seeing LeBron. So
another great thing happened this weekend. It was the NFL draft.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so we have got our grades for the top 10 picks. We're just going to run through them real quick, and I'll give you my grades for the top 10, and Logan will give you his grades. Logan, why don't you start us off with that?
Okay, so the first pick was the Arizona Cardinals, and you guys are probably going to be shocked at the grade I gave them here. Before this draft, I was not having it with Kyler Murray. He's an amazing quarterback, but I just don't think he's going to get anything done with this Cardinals team because he doesn't have a team around him. So I give the Cardinals a C- for this pick because my belief is that you got to build a team before you can draft a quarterback to just come in and just do everything for your team. They have one of the most terrible offensive lines in the NFL, and Kyler Murray is just going to be out there scattering all over the place, and with higher risk of getting injured as well, with running around all over the place, getting hit. I don't see it, at least in the first couple years, working out good for him. If they can turn around and make a good team, get some good offensive linemen, I could see him succeeding. But for this year and maybe years to come, I don't see him doing good. So the next pick is the Niners. They picked up Nick Bosa. I really loved this D-end. I think he was like my second favorite one. And I give the Niners a B in this one. I would give them a higher grade, but just a defensive end was not one of their highest needs. Their highest need was a wide receiver. They need that number one wide receiver that everyone knows that has all the stats. They don't have that. They need a good, solid wide receiver, and they don't really have that. And I don't think they drafted any wide receiver in the draft, did they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They could have, but I'm off the top of my head.
Definitely not in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. And that was just one huge need that they have, and they went with Nick Bosa, which some coaches, their mindset is like, don't pick your biggest need, just pick the best player. I agree with that in some cases, but for this one, I didn't really. I would have maybe rather seen a wide receiver, at least in the second round, and they didn't pick one up in the second round. Next pick was the Jets, and they picked up Quinnen Williams from Alabama. I'm going to give this grade an A- because Quinnen Williams was one of my favorite players in the draft, and I think he's just going to be a beast. He's going to be a baller. The reason I gave it A- instead of an A was because, yeah, he's one of the best, but they kind of needed an edge rusher, so it would have been cool to see him go edge rusher, but I think Quinnen Williams was still a really solid pick, and I think they did a good job there. Next up, I'm going to go with the Raiders. They picked Clelin Ferrell. I was going to give a decent grade, but I felt like Clelin Ferrell could have been picked later. I'm going to give them like a B- because I do still like Clelin Ferrell. I don't think he's like a number 4 overall pick, though. And I don't know. I think he maybe could have gotten picked up later. I'm not sure, though. That's why I'll give them a B-. Next up is the Bucks. They picked up Devin White, inside linebacker. I'm going to give this grade an A+. Not only because one of their highest needs is a linebacker, but Devin White is just a beast. I really love this player. I think he's going to do amazing things for the Bucks. Hopefully he can be a franchise linebacker for them. Next up is the Giants. They picked up Daniel Jones, the quarterback from Duke. I'm going to give this grade a D+ because, like, I so would have went with Dwayne Haskins over this guy. And I know they probably just didn't like Dwayne Haskins in their system, but still I feel like he would have succeeded way better than Daniel Jones, and I think a ton of people can agree with me on this. The reason I gave a D+ is because they do need a quarterback, but honestly, I just don't see Daniel Jones succeeding like the Giants organization sees him succeeding. Next up, we've got the Jaguars. I think they got a decent pick here with Josh Allen. It's an outside linebacker. I give them a grade B because, yes, Josh Allen is a great linebacker. He's tall, quick, fast. He'll get around those tackles. He'll sack the quarterback, and it's just another great addition to a crazy good Jaguars defense. But a linebacker is just not one of their top needs. They really need a lot of offensive players. Their defense is really good. They need a little better on the offensive side. I do think they did pick up Cody Foster, who's an offensive lineman in the second round, which that was a good pick. So that's why I gave the Josh Allen pick a B instead of a lower grade. So yeah, that was a pretty decent pick, but I feel like they should have went on the offensive side. Next up, we've got the Lions. They picked up TJ Hawkinson, who's a tight end. I'm going to give this grade a C- because they could have went with a tight end so far into the draft. They definitely did not need to go with a tight end in the top 10. You never really see tight ends go in the top 10. They do need a tight end, but honestly, like if they could have waited later and got a tight end, and if he wasn't that good, they at least have Jesse James to fall back on, who's a decent tight end. He's not the best, but he's still pretty decent, and I think they should have went with, on the defense side, a corner or edge player. I just don't think TJ Hawkinson was a great pick. Next up, in the 9th pick, we've got the Bills, and they picked up Ed Oliver, who's a D tackle for Houston, and I'm going to give them an A-. One, because D-line was one of their highest needs, but also because for some reason I always see good defensive tackles coming out of the Bills organization. So I just see Ed Oliver really succeeding on the Bills team. Last up, we've got the Steelers. It was going to be the Broncos, but the Steelers traded up and gave the Broncos a few draft picks and one draft pick for next year, I believe. And they got Devin Bush, the inside linebacker from Michigan. I'm going to give them an A- because Devin Bush is an amazing player from Michigan. And honestly, ever since Ryan Shazier got injured, their inside linebacker role has never been the same. They have been pretty horrible there. I kind of expected them to go with a DB for some reason, but they did go with the linebacker, which we need both really bad, and they ended up picking up one or two DBs later in the draft. So I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with the Devin Bush pick. So those are my top 10 grades for the first round of the draft.
That's pretty good. I mean, I pretty much have almost similar grades. I'm probably going to go a little bit easier on these guys than you are. You're a little bit harsher than I am, but we'll start off at number 1. Cards got Kyler Murray from Oklahoma, quarterback. Again, I love Kyler Murray, but it wasn't the biggest need for the Cardinals. I mean, I get that they traded Josh Rosen and they got a new head coach and they really needed a quarterback, but wasn't the biggest need. I mean, they could have taken Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams, and they could have just rolled to Josh Rosen and said, hey, let's see what this kid can do. But they decided to trade him and go with Kyler Murray. So that's why I give him a B+. 49ers, Nick Bosa, they took Nick Bosa, edge defender from Ohio State. I'm going to give them a B+ as well, just because Nick Bosa is a phenomenal player. A lot of people had him as the best player in the draft. But like Logan said, the defensive end position was not a need for the 49ers. They have plenty of guys. They have DeForest Buckner. They have Solomon Hill, who they just drafted last year. And I mean, they drafted another defensive lineman. So I don't understand where they're going with this. They'll probably end up trading Solomon Hill or DeForest Buckner, probably Solomon Hill though, and put Nick Bosa in his position. But, good pick by the Niners, but wasn't the greatest need. The Jets, they picked 3rd. They picked Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I have that as an A, just because he was the best player available, and he was not a need for the Jets, but he was the best player available, and I think you can't go wrong by picking the best player available. That is always going to be a good option. Some teams try to get too cute, with the draft, and they'll try to take some guy that they really are in love with, but not the Jets. Mike McCagnon, he will take the best player available every time, no matter what. So kudos to them. The Raiders, they selected Clelin Ferrell. Now, I was very, very high on Clelin Ferrell before the draft for a few reasons. One, he went to Clemson, and Clemson is just a phenomenal defensive organization. For 2, I really just like Clelin Ferrell. I mean, the dude is an athletic monster. He's a foundation setter for the Raiders. And by that, I mean that he is going to set the tone. He's going to come in day one and make a difference day one on the Raiders defense. So that's why I give him a B. I would give them lower because I feel like they could have traded back from number 4 and still gotten Cleveland Farrell maybe in the 13 to 15 range. But again, Cleveland Farrell is a great pick because, Clemson players always pan out. Number 5, Bucks selected Devin White from LSU. I give this pick an A. Could be an A+, depending on how good he is. But, I mean, he's Devin White's just a phenomenal player. He's another one of those foundation setter type of players that the Bucks truly need right now. They need some guys on the defense that are going to make a difference. And Devin White is definitely going to be one of those guys. Giants selected Daniel Jones with the 6th pick. Now, I'm going to give this one a D. I have no idea what this pick was. I had Daniel Jones as my 4th overall quarterback behind Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, and Drew Lock. The Giants had 2 first-round picks, 6 and 17. They could have gotten Daniel Jones at 17, especially since Dwayne Haskins fell all the way to 15. So all this information is coming out that's, Dave Gettleman is putting out there that's saying, the Giants say that Daniel Jones was going to be taken before number 17, and that's why they took him at number 6. That's BS, dude. I do not believe that for 1 second. You are just covering up for a bad pick that is a bad pick. And I love that the Giants are literally destroying their team. I love it. Coming from a Jets fan, I can't be happier. Number 7, the Jaguars, they selected Josh Allen from the University of Kentucky. I'm going to give this one an A+. I love Josh Allen. I cannot overstate that enough. I love Josh Allen. I had him as my number 1 edge defender in the entire draft over Nick Bosa, over Cleveland Farrell. And I just think he's going to be a monster from day one. Dude's going to have 15 sacks. Book it this year. I'm not even kidding. He's already joining a stacked Jaguars defense. And you know what their coach is going to tell him? Hey, line up here, buddy, and just go rush the passer every time. Just go after the passer. And that's what that kid can do. So good job by the Jaguars taking the best player available by Josh Allen. Number 8, the Lions selected TJ Hawkinson. Just like Logan said, I have no idea what this pick is. I mean, why would you take a tight end in the freaking first round, top 10? It baffles me. Seriously, it baffles me because the Lions had so many more needed positions. They are losing Ezekiel Ansah this year. So they could have gone after a D end. They could have went after a D tackle with Ed Oliver, or they could have gone after a linebacker with Devin Bush, like he was selected two picks after this. So I have no idea what the thinking is for the Lions here, but TJ Hawkinson is a great player. So that's why I give them a C+. The Bills at number 9, they selected Ed Oliver. I'm going to give this one an A+, because I think Ed Oliver, just like Logan said, is going to be a monster. I mean, Ed Oliver is the perfect Bill. Look at all the Bills' defensive tackles in the past. Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams, they're all big, tall, country dudes, right? That's Ed Oliver right there. Dude's from Houston. He's just a monster. He did underproduce this past year, but if you look at his first 2 years of tape, this dude is a man amongst boys, okay? And the Bills just got a whole lot scarier on defense with him. The Steelers selected number 10. They traded up with the Denver Broncos, and they took Devin Bush. I'm going to give this pick an A. I would give it an A+, but they had to trade up to get him, so that kind of negates it a little bit. But he is another one of those foundation setter type players. He's definitely going to fill that void that Shazier left when he got injured. And Devin Bush is just going to be phenomenal for the Steelers. He's going to be an impact player from day one, and he's probably going to lead their team in tackles this year. So you guys better watch out for Devin Bush.
Okay, so those were our grades for the top 10. Those were our detailed informative grades. And then for the rest of the draft, to save time, we're just going to give our quick statement grades, just off the top of our head, no research, what we think. So, Brant, what do you think of Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from Alabama, picked from the Bengals?
I'm going to give it a B. It filled the team need.
All right. So I'm going to do the even numbers. Brant's going to do the odds. He'll name off the even ones for me.
So the Green Bay Packers selected Rashawn Gary out of number 12 out of Michigan.
I'm going to give that a B-. And the Dolphins selected Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle from Clemson. What do you think, Brant?
I'm going to give that one a B-. I think they could have gotten him later.
All right.
The Atlanta Falcons selected Chris Lindstrom with the 14th pick.
C-. I think they could have gotten him later in the draft. And the Redskins selected Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback from Ohio State.
I'm going to give that an A+. I really love that pick, and he fell. He fell a very long way, so that's great.
And they definitely needed a good quarterback.
Yes, they did. Brian Burns was the 16th pick out of Florida State for the Carolina Panthers. How do you feel about that one?
I'll give it a B+. They kind of need some linebackers, and I think he's a decent one at that.
I agree with that.
And the Giants select Dexter Lawrence from Clemson. He's a defensive tackle.
I'm going to have to give this one a C+. I love Dexter Lawrence. I thought he was great all year, but again, you could have gotten him later. He's not the 17th best player in this draft. The Minnesota Vikings selected Garrett Bradbury from NC State. He's a center.
I'm going to give this an A. I really loved Garrett Bradbury. He's one of my favorite linemen in the draft, and I think he's going to do really good things with them.
I'll agree. They filled a need for that center position.
Yeah. The Titans selected Jeffrey Simmons. He's a defensive tackle from Mississippi State. What do you think, Brant?
I like this one. I'm going to give it a B+ because Jeffrey Simmons is coming off an ACL tear. But I do like this one. They needed to beef up their defense, and hopefully he can play year one. The Denver Broncos got the 20th pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers in a trade, and they selected Noah Fant, tight end from Iowa. How do you feel about that one?
I actually like this. I'm going to give it a B+. I still think it's kind of weird seeing tight ends go in the first round, so that's why I'm giving it a B+. But I really like Noah Fant. He's a good tight end. The Packers selected Darnell Savage Jr. from Maryland. He's a safety. What do you think, Brant?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. I'm going to give it a C-. First of all, I don't even think Darnell Savage was a top 3 safety in this draft. And second of all, I think they could have gotten him way later. So I don't get it. I don't get this one.
Yeah, I really like Darnell Savage, but he might have gone later. So I'll agree with you on that.
The Philadelphia Eagles selected Andre Dillard, offensive tackle out of Washington State with the 22nd overall pick. How do you feel about that one?
I think Dillard's a really good tackle, but I'm going to give the Eagles a B. That's just my grade. So the Texans selected Titus Howard, offensive tackle from Alabama State.
I'm going to give this one a C+, mostly because my main man, Jawan Taylor from Florida, was still out there, and nobody took him until the second round, so don't really understand that one.
And I feel like he could have gotten picked up over Andre Dillard too.
Exactly. I thought Jawan Taylor was the best tackle in this draft.
I agree.
Josh Jacobs was the 24th overall pick by the Oakland Raiders out of Alabama, running back. What about that one? How do you feel?
Well, considering them losing Marshawn Lynch, this is probably a good pickup, and usually good running backs come out of Alabama. I'll give this a B+.
I'll agree with that one.
The Ravens selected Marquise Brown, wide receiver from Oklahoma, Antonio Brown's cousin, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this one an A-. I had Marquise Brown as my number 1 receiver in this whole draft. So it's obvious that he went off the board first at wide receiver. But Lamar Jackson needed somebody to throw to. He had nobody. So this is a great addition for them. Montez Sweat was the 26th overall pick out of Mississippi State. He's a defensive end, and the Washington Redskins selected him. How do you feel about that one?
I'm going to give this pick an A+. I really love Montez Sweat. I think he's going to ball out in Washington. I just really liked this pick.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The Raiders selected Jonathan Abram, a safety from Mississippi State. What do you think, Brant?
I'm going to give this one an A-. A lot of people don't even know who Jonathan Abram is, but I do. And I happen to love this kid. I mean, he's going to be an impact player from day one. Just watch. Be sure to watch out for Jonathan Abram. The 28th overall pick was Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame, defensive tackle, and he was selected by the Los Angeles Chargers. How do you feel about that one, Logan?
I gotta say, I do not know too much about Jerry Tillery, but it seems like the Chargers could use some D tackles. I'll give them a B. The Seahawks selected LJ Collier, a D end from TCU. What do you think, Brant?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a C-. I really do not think that LJ Collier is, even one of the top 100 players in this draft. I mean, I don't understand what this pick was. I get that they need a defensive end, but, wasn't a great pick value-wise. Number 30 overall was the New York Giants selecting DeAndre Baker, cornerback out of Georgia. How do you feel?
I'm going to give this one a B+. I really like DeAndre Baker. I think he's really good. Unfortunately, the entire Giants organization isn't good, so I'm probably just going to be watching him do good things, and that's it. The Falcons selected Caleb McGarry, an offensive tackle from Washington.
I'm just all these tackles are getting selected before my main man Jawan Taylor, and it's making me so mad. I'm going to give this one a C- again. Like, dude, what are you guys thinking? Jawan Taylor is the best tackle in this whole draft. Falcons. Okay, so the Patriots selected N'Keal Harry with the 32nd overall pick, the last pick of the first round, wide receiver out of Arizona State. How do you feel, Logan?
Now, before I give this grade, I'm just going to say I think N'Keal Harry is going to do good with the Patriots organization because Tom Brady can just make wide receivers good, and that's that. But I'm going to give them a B because they needed a tight end so bad in this draft, and they didn't pick up a single one. They picked up a freaking punter, and I'll talk about that later. But I'm just going to give them a B because they should have went with a tight end, especially with two of them being taken before them.
Well, speaking of punters being taken in the draft, why don't we talk about winners and losers from the draft?
Yeah, definitely. We got some top 5 winners and losers from the draft. I'm going to give mine. Brant's going to give his. Brant will give his first, right?
Yep.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my winners. We'll start off on a good note. Number 1 winner of the entire draft, the Miami Dolphins, okay? They picked up Josh freaking Rosen, dude. They got Josh Rosen for a steal, 2nd round pick. Oh, I love that trade. He's going to do great in Miami. They also drafted Christian Wilkins out of Clemson. And not to mention, they filled a lot of their needs. I mean, with their 2nd and 3rd round picks, they filled a lot of holes in their offense and defense. So kudos to the Dolphins. My number 2 winner of the draft was the Washington Redskins. I thought that they were going to end up getting the 3rd overall quarterback just because of their draft position, but they ended up getting my 2nd overall quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, and they traded back into the 1st round and selected Montez Sweat with a 26th overall pick. Not sure how he fell that far to 26 after what an amazing combine he had, but he did, and the Redskins swooped him, so kudos on them. That was a great pickup. My number 3 winner was the Arizona Cardinals. They had phenomenal first 3 rounds. Let me just name you some players out of their first 3 rounds. Kyler Murray, Byron Murphy, Andy Isabella, Zach Allen, and Hakeem Butler, all in the first 3 rounds. I mean, that is just that's 4 impact players that can come out and be really good players as rookies. all 4 of those guys. So great job by Arizona. They're definitely moving in the right direction after what a terrible season they had last year. My number 4 winner was actually the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought they did a phenomenal job at trading up to get Devin Bush. They really don't trade up ever. I mean, ever in the draft. And they really wanted Devin Bush, so they got their guy. And, a lot of teams, like I said before, try to get cute with the draft, and it never works out. They try to go for, a great freaking speed D end or whatever. Nah, the Steelers, they knew who they wanted. They targeted him. They went for it. And they also got this kid out of Kentucky, Benny Snell, to refill Le'Veon Bell's void that he left. So good job to the Pittsburgh Steelers. My 5th overall winner was the Oakland Raiders, believe it or not. I'm actually very, very high on a lot of these picks that the Raiders had. Most people aren't. And, I'm kind of rolling with these guys. I like them a lot. Cleveland Farrell, I loved him coming out of Clemson. I didn't think he was the 4th best player in the draft or should have gone 4th overall, but they did get a great player in Cleveland Farrell. So good job on them. Josh Jacobs, another great player. They filled a need with the running back position. Jonathan Abram, they filled a need. Travion Mullen and Hunter Renfrow, both Clemson guys. They know how to win, and they filled their needs. Mike Mayock and John Gruden know what they're doing. They are getting foundational players that can help them succeed in the future. They aren't worried about winning right now, but they're worried about winning when they get to Vegas. And I think that is very, very smart by a coach and a GM that knows that they're going to be there for a long time. Now, let's get into my losers. Okay, we'll start it off by the biggest loser of them all, the New York Football Giants. They started off the night by selecting Daniel Jones. Now, I really don't want to bash this kid, Daniel Jones, because nobody knows how he's actually going to play. But I had him as my 4th overall quarterback behind Dwayne Haskins, or Kyler Murray was 1st, Dwayne Haskins was 2nd, and Drew Lock was 3rd. Daniel Jones had a mediocre Senior Bowl, and he had a pretty good season, but I just don't think that any of those games really, showed me that he was the number 6 overall pick. I definitely would have taken Dwayne Haskins over him, and if I was the Giants, I probably would have waited until maybe the 2nd or 3rd round, especially since Drew Lock fell that far to the Broncos. They could have got a lot better value out of those picks. And Dexter Lawrence is a great player, but again, value. You didn't get good value with him. And same thing with DeAndre Baker. I mean, DeAndre Baker is a great player. All these guys are great players. But the reason why I have them as losers is because they didn't get the value. They could have gotten a way better draft haul than what they did. And they just did not pay attention to value. My number 2 losers was the Lions. Again, they did not pay attention to value. They saw that they had a need at tight end, which it wasn't a very big need because, like Logan said, they have Jesse James. Jesse James is a starting tight end. So they don't need a great tight end. What they do need is a corner. They need a linebacker that can get a lot of tackles, play sound defense for them, or they need an edge rusher because they are losing their edge rusher this year. I just don't get taking a tight end at number 8 overall. That doesn't make sense to me. Number 3 was the Cleveland Browns because, for one, they did get Odell in a trade, so that's good, but they didn't have any first-round picks. And then with the second-round pick, they picked Greedy Williams. Greedy Williams is a great player. This pick had amazing value because I'm pretty sure he was the 43rd pick or 42nd pick, something like that. And I had him going top 15. I had Greedy Williams in the top 15. I was thinking that the Jets were maybe going to trade back from 3 all the way to like 15 or 20 or something like that, and then take Greedy Williams at 20.
He was 46.
46, exactly. That is amazing value. But what did the Browns do after that? Nothing. They should have just traded all their picks and went for next year's draft because they pretty much got nobody after that. Kudos to the Browns for getting Greedy Williams in this year's draft. That's it. The Colts, they are some big losers this year. First of all, they didn't have a single first-round pick. Why? Because they traded out of the first round again. They ended up having 3 second-round picks, but they did nothing with those picks. They picked guys that you could have gotten in the 3rd or maybe even 4th round. The draft is all about value. I don't understand why teams do not look for value in the draft because, trading back is good in theory, but it's only good until you get the right players. The Colts, they had the chance to take a great wide receiver. They had a chance, DK Metcalf, for example, or Marquise Brown or A.J. Brown, any of those guys. Or they could have taken any of these, tight ends. They could have traded up and gotten Noah Fant, where Denver got him. I mean, I just don't understand what the Colts are thinking, when they keep trading back and gaining all this capital, but they're gaining it for nothing because they don't take good players. Like, it makes no sense to me. And then the number 5 loser was the Philadelphia Eagles. They ended up selecting Andre Dillard with their first pick. Now, no knock on Andre Dillard, but again, it's not good value. He was my number 4 tackle in this whole entire draft, and I had Jawan Taylor above any of the top 4 tackles taken, and Jawan Taylor was the 5th tackle taken. So the Eagles could have taken Jawan Taylor. They did end up getting another wide receiver in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, which I think he's going to be a very good player. He's a lot like Nelson Aguilar right now, and that's just another guy that Carson Wentz can throw to, get more comfortable with. But again, it's all about value in the draft. I mean, just look at what the Cardinals did. The Cardinals had all these great players in the first 3 rounds, and then the Eagles, Colts, they both had multiple picks in the first 3 rounds and didn't even take one of those guys. So, I mean, I get that some teams' needs are different than other teams, but at some point you have to take players based on value and based on, how truly good they are, not just because of your team's needs. Sometimes it's better to take the best player available than to take whatever you need.
Was that it?
Yes, that is it.
All righty. Well, I guess it's my turn. I did have a few that were similar, but also some that were different. So my top 5 winners and my top 5 losers. I will start with my winners. First one, I've got to go with the Bills. I just loved the Ed Oliver pick. It was one of my favorite picks of the first round. I think he's a perfect fit for Buffalo. And not only were they able to get Ed Oliver, but they were able to go into the second round and get Cody Ford, which an offensive line was a huge need for them. So not only did they get an amazing player in Ed Oliver, but they were able to fill the void of offensive line in Cody Ford. Hopefully he can perform well with them as well. So my next winner would be the Redskins. The reason I say that is because they were able to get Dwayne Haskins, even though the Giants needed a quarterback and ended up with going with Daniel Jones, both over Dwayne Haskins and Drew Lock, which I thought was terrible. And they were also able to get one of my favorite defensive ends, Montez Sweat, in the first round as well. I think these are both amazing picks. I think they're both going to be starters right off the bat, and I think they're going to do great things in Washington. My next winner is going to be the Tennessee Titans. The reason I say this is because I just believe they addressed all of their needs. They went with just Jeffrey Simmons. He was a defensive tackle, and a defensive tackle was one of their biggest needs. And then they went with A.J. Brown in the second round. They needed that. And then offensive guard Nate Davis in the third. They needed offensive guards as well. And I believe A.J. Brown and Nate Davis are both going to be 2 automatic starters. Next up, I've got to go with the Jaguars, not just because of what Brant said with Josh Rosen, but also because I believe Josh Allen is just one of the best linebackers in the draft. I think is going to do amazing things in Jacksonville. And not only did they get Josh Allen, but they were able to get Jawan Taylor in the second round. I thought that was crazy. I thought he would already be gone, but he wasn't. They were able to snag him way late into the draft. That was a huge pickup. And then they went with the tight end Josh Oliver, and a tight end is one of their needs. Lastly, I'm going to go with the Steelers because they just, like Brant said, they filled a huge inside linebacker need with Shazier being gone. I think Benny Snell Jr. is going to be a really good backup to Connor for right now. We'll have to see how he does in the NFL. I'm not too sure if he'll be either amazing or just good. That's kind of how I was when Bell got drafted. I wasn't really sure how good he would be. So we'll have to see with this Benny Snell guy. He has really good stats coming out of Kentucky. So I think he'll be decent. And they also focused on their DB role in getting Justin Lane. So those are my top 5 winners. I'm going to go with my losers now. So the first one obviously has to be Giants. Brant already said it all, but Daniel Jones, enough said. That's all I really have to say. The next one is the Patriots. I hated this draft with the Patriots. Their needs were a tight end, defensive line, wide receiver, DBs, and offensive line. They did pick up N'Keal Harry in the first round, which I do think he's going to do good, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is they didn't pick up a single tight end in the draft. Gronkowski is gone. They don't have a tight end anymore. Who are they going to use? Why didn't they pick up a tight end? They picked up a punter in the 5th round. Not only did they pick him up, but they traded up for him. Who trades up for a punter? What the hell? Oh my gosh, I'm getting so fired up over this. My brother, who's a Patriots fan, was getting so pissed off at this team because every single round he was texting me. He's like, no tight end again. Of course, not a tight end. Who are they going to use? So that's my rant on the Patriots. My next loser is going to be the Raiders. I know Brant picked them as a winner, but honestly, I just feel like Cleveland Farrell was way too big of a reach to be picked in the 4th overall pick. I did not like that. I think he could have went way later, and that's just all I have to say for the Raiders. My next loser is going to be the 49ers. I'm just going to say this one statement. They picked up a 27-year-old punter in the 4th round. Who picks up, 1, a punter in the 4th round, and 2, a freaking 27-year-old? I don't understand the mindset of some of these guys. They did get Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, which was a pretty good pickup, but they could have went with another wide receiver instead of a punter and get 2 decent receivers instead of 1. Lastly, my last loser is going to be the Colts. The reason I'm going to go with the Colts is because they just kept trading their picks. They weren't really getting anyone. Their first pick, which was in the 2nd round, was Ben Banogu from TCU. Not really sure how good he is. And then they went with Bobby Okereke in the 3rd round from Stanford. I think their only good pick was really Paris Campbell, but even then they could have got DK Metcalf over Campball, and I just don't
AJ
think.
Brown.
Yes, AJ Brown too, and I just don't think the Colts had a very good draft overall. So those are my top 5 winners and losers.
Yeah, I want to hit on the 49ers taking a punter in the 4th round. That's absurd to me. Why would you take a punter in the 4th round?
Honestly, me as a scout, I wouldn't even pick a punter in the draft in general.
That's what I'm saying.
You can get so many good punters being undrafted. There are so many good punters that were undrafted.
I agree.
And it just blows me. Why do you need to go with a punter in the 4th round? It blows my mind.
Also, the Vikings, they took a long snapper in the 7th round.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that.
250th overall. Now, I understand he was 2 picks away from being the last pick ever, but you could have gotten him as an undrafted free agent.
I've seen it before. Like I saw the Seahawks do it a year or two ago, but it is pretty crazy.
He's a long snapper.
Like after the draft, there's still so many good undrafted players.
I know.
So I just don't see why they need to get these players in the draft.
Exactly. And what's crazy to me is that every single team usually signs like at least 3 or 4 guys after the draft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just to fill positions, right? Yeah. And so why would you not draft like a player that you need, like another position that you need, and then after, even if you think that, somebody's going to take this punter, who cares? He's a punter.
Yeah.
Like what? Who cares if you're gonna lose out on this 27-year-old punter, dude?
Yeah.
Like, why? And then the Patriots trade up to take a punter.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's all about value, and some of these coaches aren't seeing this.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand. I don't understand. And I mean, it baffles me. But it also baffles me that it's teams like the Patriots that are doing it. Like, maybe this is the move, like maybe you should take a punter in the 5th round and then you won't have wasted picks on guys that are bad. Maybe that's the move. No, I have no idea. But the Patriots just win no matter what. They're taking a punter in the 5th round just to troll everybody.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, look, we're going to take him and then we're still going to win the Super Bowl next year.
Our quarterback has 6 Super Bowls. We could pick any one and be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, so yeah, that's the draft, and it was definitely fun watching it. So I think that's all the time we have for you guys today. Where can they find you, Brant?
They can find me over on Twitter at SmoothTV with 3 O's, and then they can find me on Instagram at Brant_22. What about you, Logan?
They can find me on Instagram at LoganT.Harris. On Twitter, LoganHarris59 with an underscore at the end, and my YouTube channel where I do tech reviews. You can check that out. It's called Product Prodigy. And as we're sitting here, we're actually watching the end of the Sixers and Raptors game. The Sixers are up 88-84 with 1:42 left. Who do you think is going to win, Brant?
Ooh, I don't know. The Raptors are going on a nice little run right here. Kyle Lowry just hit a 3. But Jimmy Butler just got fouled, so he's at the free throw line right now.
Yeah.
I think the Raptors could pull this one out, but I'm going to go with the Sixers.
Yeah.
I'm saying Sixers.
I'm going to go with the Sixers too, just because they've kind of been up this entire half. So.
And they were up big at one point. They were up by almost 15 points at one time.
Yeah, definitely. So Sixers might tie it 1-1. So I guess you'll guys hear about it next week.
All right. See you guys next week.
Peace.